Okay, so welcome everyone to the Menger Institute's diploma program in market economics and praxeonomics. So what is the Menger Institute? The short version, the Menger Institute is an academic and research center dedicated to the study and understanding and advancing a more human-centered or human-centric approach to the study of the social sciences and market economics. Some of the primary objectives of the Institute provide an academic environment for the study of human action that aligns with human nature in the state of nature, to offer you a platform for discussing the benefits of voluntary exchange in the marketplace, cooperation, spontaneous order, and over-centralized control. Also to explore the praxeonomical which is market emergent rules. We'll talk more about praxeonomy later, dimensions of human action, and the study of how self-regulating market mechanisms bring about efficiency, harmony, and prosperity. Some of the benefits to you, okay, I get asked this question a lot, what's in it for me, students? So you first develop analytical and logical reasoning, above and beyond the ones that you will learn at a four-year mainstream institutions, okay? To detangle the complexities of human interaction through the study of praxeology, which is the study of human action using a priori deductive methodology. You'll get an opportunity to learn from and interact with leading thinkers in the fields of market economics, anarchy, and praxeonomy. Some more benefits. The Institute will prepare you for roles in academia, policy think tanks, private enterprise, entrepreneurship, and non-governmental organizations advocating market-based solutions. You'll also have an opportunity to publish your research in our scholarly Carl Menger Journal of Praxeonomy and Economics. The Menger Academy consists of 10 pillars. So this is pillar number 1 today. It consists of 10 pillars, totaling 120 credit hours to be completed within 1 year. We'll meet every month for a weekend, 12 hours a weekend. 6 hours, we'll start with 3 hours in the morning, we'll take a lunch break, and then we'll have 3 hours in the afternoon, 6 hours Saturdays, 6 hours Sunday, total of 12 hours. We're going to do this once a month for a total of 120 credit units. I'm going to give you the quick introduction to the pillars. There's a storyline to the course. So we're going to start with foundations. Foundations are very important. We're going to establish what the science of praxeology is. So praxeology is the study of human action in the state of nature, given our human nature, okay? Students will learn about the interdependence of human action, human nature, and the state of nature. And we're going to talk about the methodological foundations. We call it the epistemology. How do we know what we know? Okay, that's the science of epistemology. So we're going to utilize the methodological foundations. We're going to talk about the methodological foundations of Austrian economics, which is a priori deductive science. Once we lay down the foundations, we understand who human beings are, the state of nature, we understand the methodology that we'll be using in the science of economics. We're going to move on to pillar number 2. Pillar number 2 is called catalepsy. Catalepsy means exchange in the marketplace, outside of the household. Okay? So we're above and beyond just economics. Economics is a Greek word for one who studies and understands the household mechanisms. But catalepsy is your interaction with the outside world, with people who have different set of beliefs and norms and traditions, how that transaction takes place, okay? So the second pillar focuses on specialization and trade and exchange as fundamental to human and economic progress. Students will explore the concepts of comparative advantage and how trade fosters peaceful cooperation. Pillar number 3 is about market institutions. So think about this as a movie, right? So the naked ape, Richard Dawkins calls human beings as naked apes, okay? We're lacking the fur, but we're apes. The only difference is that we have cognitive capacity above and beyond the apes, but otherwise we're just naked apes, okay? So think about the naked ape or the human being with more advanced cognitive capacity entering the marketplace. Why would you enter the marketplace? Because it benefits you. You're not in the classroom to benefit me or to benefit the other students. So human beings enter the marketplace, enter society to benefit themselves. So we're going to talk about the self-interest shortly. So when you enter the marketplace, the reason you enter the marketplace is because of the benefits of the division of labor, right? So you benefit. You can't consume all the goods and the services that you desire. So you enter the marketplace, you specialize in certain goods and services that you have a comparative advantage in, and then you exchange. So your entry into the marketplace is to benefit yourself, right? So the naked ape enters the marketplace to exchange goods and services to benefit himself or herself. But then once you enter the market institutions, there are certain rules, right? So the naked ape and other apes will get together and they say, you know what, let's create some market institutions, such as assurance companies, insurance companies. And why would you do that? To facilitate exchange. Because sometimes trade takes, I give you an apple, I expect a banana a year from now, so I need an insurance, I need assurance. So we're going to study all types of market institutions, the evolution of market institutions over time to facilitate exchange. These are human market institutions. Okay, so facilitate cooperation and such as assurance agencies, insurance agencies. So the market, so in this pillar, will also evaluate the superiority of for-profit institutions, institutions that are motivated by profits over bureaucratic systems that we have now in managing human affairs. Now think about the naked ape. Once we discover some assurance insurance agencies to facilitate exchange, now as cognitively, our cognitive capacity will lead us to determine what kind of governance system we want, okay? So the pillar number 4 introduces various types of governance system, okay? Think about as political systems. So such as democracy is a form of governance, majority voting. I call it the tyranny of the majority. Monarchy, some people think monarchy is much better than democracy is a better governance system than monarchy. We're going to find out that's not the case. They're equally inefficient, evil. Theocracy is ruled by religious, rules such as in Vatican or Iran, and a few other countries have theocracy. Saudi Arabia, right, which have Sharia law. And anarchy. What is anarchy? Anarchy is a proprietary contractual society. Hopefully, we're going to find out, I'm going to be able to convince you that an anarchic society or an anarchic governance mechanism, a proprietary contractual society, is a much more efficient, more equitable, more harmonious, prosperous, efficient social system than, or a governance system than democracy or monarchy. Okay, that's going to take some time. Furthermore, this pillar offers how a private property under the principle of homesteading. What is homesteading? Coming to own a property, and there's a mechanism for it, right? So we're going to define what homesteading is, and so we're going to study of how private property, right? The ownership is under the principle of homesteading provides market-based solutions to externalities. Okay, I get these types of questions all the time. There are externalities. I'm polluting, the next the neighbor is going to complain. So what would an anarchic society, a decentralized system, discover solutions for such externalities, right? Public goods, common resources, overfishing. So you may say, we need a centralized authority. Oh, okay. So we need a centralized authority. We're going to discover a market-based solution. A market-based solution provides a better mechanism to solve for the externalities problems. Right? Underlying this is the private property under the homesteading principle. The naked ape, right? So we enter the marketplace to benefit ourselves. We create some institutions, market institutions, assurance, insurance institutions. We also talk about some type of governance, right? How are we going to manage our affairs? And then we also, human beings, also the naked ape, also wants to discover a medium of exchange. Why? Because If I'm producing apples, you're producing bananas, I want your apples, and you want my bananas, exchange becomes difficult, right? If I have apples and then he desires oranges, I don't have oranges. So we call this double coincidence of wants. It's an inefficient system, the barter system. So human beings in the marketplace, and we're going to talk about the evolution of the medium of exchange, discover the medium of exchange. So we're discovering all these institutions and governance structures and the medium of exchange, money, we call it money. All of these are discovered by our motivation to exchange in the marketplace. So economics is the science of exchange, is the science of specialization and exchange. And we're going to find out this is the science, this exchange is what binds society together. We call it a market society rather than a political society. So the medium of exchange is pillar number 5, covers the evolution and the role of money. The evolution and the role of money in a market society. It delves into time preference, interest rates, and the importance of economic calculation for entrepreneurial success. So we don't talk about the medium of exchange. Pillar number 6. So when the naked ape enters the marketplace, right? So it discovers some market institutions, discovers a form of governance. What's the best form of governance? The naked ape and human beings congregating together, they want to discover a medium of exchange to facilitate trade. And finally, right, sometimes in your transactions, you need arbitration and mediation. So all of this is to facilitate exchange in the marketplace. So we're going to talk about jurisprudence, but in particular, we're going to talk about, obviously, we're going to talk about the evolution of jurisprudence, we're going to go back in time, but we're going to focus on market provision of jurisprudence, market arbitration mediation, right? So we don't want to centralize, we want a decentralized provision of arbitration and mediation. So this is another market institutions that was discovered in the marketplace. We're going to talk about the historical evolution of this market jurisprudence. We're going to talk about the taking over of governments or centralized authorities, emphasizing the role of arbitration and mediation as a superior to monocentric. So it's going to be a polycentric but rather than a monocentric system of legal governance. Okay, so the individual, so it's a movie, you enter the marketplace, you discover some market institutions, we discover a medium of exchange, we discover a type of governance, and we're going to discover a medium of exchange, and we're going to provide other market institutions such as jurisprudence. Finally, we also need security. When you're exchanging, right? I give you the medium of exchange, and then you get robbed, there are thieves, there is murder, there's rape, there is crime. So we need some type of security. That's another desire for us. Our goal is struggle for survival. So we're going to talk about security, but again, we're going to talk about market security rather than centralized security. How the market, a decentralized market security emerges via exchange in the marketplace. We're going to talk about the efficiency and adaptability of private defense agencies. Okay. Pillar number 8, we're going to talk about philanthropy. I get asked these questions a lot. How about the poor people? How about the unfortunate members of society? Isn't the marketplace capitalism a cold-blooded, cool place, a chaotic environment, right? So, and the answer is no. Okay. The answer is no, because we're going to talk about the voluntary provision of charity over a centralized coercive provision of charity. And we're going to talk about, as a means, the voluntary, the contributions or charitable charity as a means of acquiring warm glow. It turns out that warm glow is innate in us. We're going to talk about the dopamine that gets released in your body physiologically, biologically. It's the feeling of goodness. So we don't give just because religion says give, or the natural rights theory, or there's a higher imposed on us. No, we give because it benefits us physically, psychologically, emotionally, physically, biologically. The body releases chemicals, the good feeling, good chemicals, right? So when we give money, it's a means of acquiring a warm glow. That's what you give, okay? So we don't need a centralized, imposed mechanism of redistribution and voluntary charity. It's not like people are going to die on the streets, hungry, and at the doors of hospitals, right? That's why we need a centralized authority, taxation, coercion, and this redistribution. But no, we feel good by giving to charitable organizations. So we're going to talk about philanthropy. Number 9, we're going to talk about praxionomics. Praxionomics is a new word, that means praxi means in action, and nomi means the emergent market rules of conduct, norms, a value system. You can add morality to it, right? So we're going to talk about market emergent morality system, value system, rather than the metaphysical abstract religion and the Ten Commandments, nor the natural rights theorists, right? Would say, oh, human beings have a nature, and the nature gives them certain rights, inalienable rights. So we're going to talk about praxionomy, which is a rule of conduct and moral norms that emerges organically in the market economy, in contrast to mythical natural rights theory. Finally, pillar number 10 is our capstone pillar. It provides a comprehensive synthesis. So we're going to bring everything together: the human being entering the marketplace, right? Exchanging, benefiting from exchange, creating market institutions, discussing, exploring various forms of governance, discovering a medium of exchange, money to facilitate exchange, discovering the arbitration and mediation agencies, so we can, mediate our exchanges. The marketplace also discovers and explores the security agencies, private security agencies, and various other agencies. And then we're going to move all the way to the provision of rules of conduct, rules of moral norms. And that's what the capstone pillar number 10 does. It brings everything together and integrates everything from praxeology to praxeonomics. So finally, the Menger Institute, I would like to extend my gratitude to 3 of my former students. Ethan Akimoto, raise your hand. That's Ethan, everyone. Peter Bartanian, and Matthew Geiger, right here, who helped me found this institute. Okay, without them, this would not exist today. I would like to also give my indebtedness and gratitude to our first benefactor. His name is Dr. James Lawson. It was an accidental meeting. I met him at the cigar lounge. He heard me for 5 minutes. He's like, I want to sponsor you. And we're grateful for his unconditional injections, he called them. Every time he sees me, he said, I have a new injection for you, okay? Because this costs money, okay? So we're grateful to Dr. James. You will see him eventually. He'll come, as a guest, maybe in the future, and that enabled establishing the Menger Institute, okay? Okay, so this is a quick introduction, and I would like to go to the next file, please. Okay, so welcome again. So pillar 1, today we're going to start pillar 1, which is foundations. Next slide. What is economics? Okay, there are many definitions for what economics is. Different authors, different textbooks. There's a gazillion. For the past 15-20 years I've been doing this, yet I have to find 2 similar definitions. Could mean anything, okay? But the way we're going to describe it, I'm going to make this course a more human-centric, okay? More human-centric approach. More humane approach to study. So I'm going to define it as the study of humankind's struggle for survival, okay? Why do we struggle? Why the word struggling? Well, because our wants and needs are usually more than our resources. So it's a struggle. Why is it a struggle? Because there are scarcities. Scarcity, what is the most important scarcity? James?
Most important scarcity?
Yeah.
Is
Time is the most important because human beings are mortal. We're mortal, okay? Another scarcity is space. You can't be at two different places at the same time. Or if he's occupying that chair, I can't be on that chair, right? So time, space, those are the most important fundamental scarcities. I don't think there are other scarcities. Mainstream textbooks, generic textbooks, they'll tell there's scarcity of apples and oranges. No. I mean, we're becoming more and more efficient. Hydroponics, we're growing apples and oranges on rocks. We're going vertical. We barely scratch the surface of planet Earth. Okay, we're not running out of anything. We're not running out of water. What goes up must come down. It doesn't come down here, it comes out somewhere else. But we're not losing water, we're not losing anything. Okay, so, and the universe is ours. Okay, the most important thing is human ingenuity. The universe is infinite, right? So it's ours to discover, to explore, to extract all resources. So I don't think in the textbook mainstream science there's scarcities. No. But there is a fundamental scarcity, an essential scarcity, which is time. Unfortunately, we are mortal. We're all gonna die. Okay? We're mortal, we're gonna die. So that's why I call it the study of humankind's struggle for survival. We're struggling. Okay. It investigates how the market coordinates exchange among self-interested market participants to bring about harmony, peace, and survival. So I'm saying it is the study of, so economics is the study of human action. Let's define what human action is. Okay, along the lines of Ludwig von Mises, human action is the first fundamental principle of economics upon which all other principles are established. We have to have a starting point, right, in the science of economics. The starting point is that human beings act. Is this an undeniable fact? Yes, because if you attempt to deny it, you end up verifying it. What is an act? Moving, studying, reading a book. Can you not act? No, that's an act in itself, right? You're saying, I don't want to act. So economics, the starting point for the science of economics is that human beings act. You have to act. You cannot not act. Okay, it's innate. We are pre-wired to act. But then when we act, how do we act? Did you just wake up in the morning and start walking in one direction, or no, you act with a purpose. You act with a purpose. So action it has to be purposeful because we are volitional. We have a cognitive capacity, right? So economics is the study of human being waking up in the morning and acting because you can't act. But action must be purposeful. You have a goal, you have a target. Then you have ranking. You don't just something comes to mind, you don't do it. You had an option today. You could go to church, you could go to the movie theater, go to the beach, or come to the Menger Institute program, right? So you acted, but you acted with reason, and you ranked your goals. There were alternatives, right? So you rank. So therefore, economics is the study of human beings, right? Acting purposely with a purpose and ranking their goals, goal 1, goal 2, goal 3. And then how did you come to the institute today? Well, you could have walked, you could have taken the bus. Well, you found the most efficient way. Okay, what was the efficient way? Maybe carpool, take a taxi, right? So human beings have goals, and we're going to use scarce resources, right? And efficiently use this transportation means to get to the institute, to the lecture. So suddenly from the axiom of action, we're able to derive other principles that we have to choosing that there are scarcities, we're going to use our scarcities efficiently, right? So we're starting building up a science of economics, starting from the axiom of action. Okay, Ludwig von Mises was able to cover the entire spectrum of human beings exchanging in the marketplace, starting from one truthful principle, which is the axiom of action. We're going to talk more about that later on. So the principle says that human beings act. Human action is the driving force behind all economic activities. What we're going to do in this course, remember the naked ape who entered society, right, built the institutions and the governance systems and the medium of exchange, security, jurisprudence, right? So that human being, right, we have discovered that he is driven by human action to be the driving force behind all the economic activities of human beings. Economists traced implication of purposeful human action, underlying implications. So the economics is the study of the implications of human action. So we act, we cannot not act. What are the implications of human action? Human action, number one, some of the characteristic is innate, as I said, it is innate. It is biological, it is intrinsic, we are pre-wired, you cannot not act. The axiom is tautological. What does the word tautology mean? Tautological, please.
It's true.
It's true.
Like without any sort of like doubt.
It's true without any sort of doubt. Anyone else? Tautology is true without tautological. How do you know it's true? What is the mechanism of you knowing that something is true? Do you observe it? You gather data? You run regressional analysis? No, it's via introspection. It's in your head. Self-reflection. Inner reflective. Okay? Contemplation.
Deductive reasoning.
Deductive reasoning. Okay, that's what deductive reasoning is. Retrospection. In your head, you know that you're acting. You know that you cannot not act. Okay? So economics doesn't study knee-jerk reactions, sleepwalking, right? So economics is study of reasonable and purposeful action. So the action is tautological. That is a statement that is true any place and any time. The Pythagorean theorem, right? A squared is equal to B squared and C squared. That's true any place, anytime. It was true millions years ago. It's going to be true on planet Mars, any place, anytime. So economic theorems we're going to find out are tautologies. It's true in one case, it's untrue in another. They are tautological. Why? Because we're going to derive them based on our human nature and our essentialist human nature. Something that's driven by our human nature are tautological. Okay, and I'm going to short talk about human nature. So the axiom is tautological, truthful statement, true, any place, anytime. We don't need the scientific mechanism, scientific method to prove its veracity. It's by contemplation, inner reflection, right? We arrive at its truthfulness. Only individuals act. Human action, society cannot act. As a free market economist, as an Austrian economist, I can't say France attacked Germany. It just doesn't make sense. France cannot act. You know, you can identify certain generals, right, came together, made a decision. So individuals act. Society is an abstract entity. It cannot act. Evolutionary biologist Richard Dawkins argued that self-preservation, right, the struggle for survival is primarily an individual struggle. Okay, we don't struggle as a group to survive, but even within, we struggle as a group, but at the same time, within the group, we're also struggling to survive. So sometimes we congregate to defend against a bigger enemy, but at the same time, we're struggling to survive within the group. So it's an individual struggle rather than a group phenomenon. He also argued that natural selection acts primarily, underlined primarily, not all the time, but most of the time, on individuals within a population. It is hence an individual's actions that determines his surviving, his struggle to survive. Okay? So only individuals act. So economics cannot be a science of aggregates. Aggregation, macroeconomics has no place in the science of economics. Individuals are the primary agents who make choices, pursue goals, and engage in interactions with others. Society is an abstract entity. It does not possess independent agency. Okay, we'll find out how important this distinction is of who's acting. Is it societal action or is it individual action? Instead, it is the trivial sum of individual actions and interactions. Economics is not the study of aggregates. It does not study society as an entity per se, but how and why individuals congregate, right? So instead of studying society as an aggregate, as a group, we study why individuals are congregating together, joining groups, right? The division of labor, etc. So it's an individual study of the individual rather than the group. Society is a means in an individual's quest for homeostatic equilibrium. Individual human beings, they use society for their own benefits, and it's not the other way around. Okay, it's irrational to say I enter society to benefit society. Okay, you enter society to benefit yourself. Okay, and Marx. So I distinguish between a market society and a political society. Okay? A market society is the voluntary exchange in the marketplace. A political society is bordered, right, with flags. Blood has been spilled to create these borders. It's like, oh, over the border, I don't like, my empathy stops at the border. Why should your empathy, your humanity stop at the border? Okay, so these borders are arbitrary. They're not created via peaceful mechanisms. It's all conquest. Okay. Franz Oppenheimer has a book called The State, and he explores the evolution of how the states were formed, and they were all bloody phenomena. Okay, they weren't created by peaceful mechanisms. So the individual enters society in his quest for homeostatic. What is homeostatic equilibrium? It's like inner equilibrium. The body needs energies, you need resources, you need heat, right? So it's the resources that the individual needs to survive. Only individuals feel pain. Society doesn't feel pain. Only individuals feel happiness, love, and betrayal. So economics is the study of the individual. Actions and preferences are therefore singular and subjective. So your actions are subjective. Your preferences is different than another human being's preferences. So actions and preferences are singular and subjective. The study of aggregate concepts like inequality, poverty, GDP, trade, deficit, and social justice should be considered part of a bureaucratic studies. Why don't we move all of this outside of economics and start a new department on campuses and universities called bureaucratic studies? Okay? Inequality. Do you know what the inequality in the US is? What's the level of inequality in the US? Top 10%, top 10%, bottom 10%. Or we call it the Gini coefficient. There are ways of, you shouldn't. If you knew, I'll kick you out of this classroom. Who cares? Do you know what the level of poverty is? Does anyone wake up in the morning and say like, oh, what is the level of poverty between, or disparity between, Brazil and the US, inter-country poverties, right? We don't. We care about the poor, that's different. You may care about individual poor people, unfortunate members of the society. That's where the warm glow comes, right? So we won't talk about that. But poverty as a concept, right, as an aggregate concept. How about inequality? I mean, what does it mean, inequality? It's a worthless statistics. What does it mean, inequality? There's going to be inequality in the grades. Some students will get A's, some students will get B's, some students will get C's, some students will get F's, some students will get an A plus. Okay, so what does that mean? There is a great distribution, and then what? Does it have any meaningful? Is there any meaningful information that worries you that you want to think about? No, it's a distribution. Okay, the statistics doesn't have feelings. It's just a distribution of grades. We're fine with it if it reflects our comparative advantage. Some students will get an A in economics, but will get an F in mathematics. Some students in literature will get a B. Some students, it's just the grades are an indication of your comparative advantage. They're unequal. So the statistics inequality in itself is worthless. It doesn't have any meaning. Okay. It's an aggregate variable. We don't know what it means. Inequality could arise because a household, two spouses, they're both working, and one of them decides to be a stay-at-home mom or dad. So income goes down. Oh, inequality is going up. But what does that mean? It's a subjective preference they have. Some people, prefer certain jobs over other jobs. Some people like changing jobs, stay there rather than staying at the same job. Right? So inequality reflects our subjective preferences in the marketplace. So in order for inequality or poverty or GDP to have meanings, we economists, we say we require methodological individualism. That means as a policymaker, okay, I have to trace it all the way down to individual level activity. That's where I discover what is inequality is, what it means, and how it should be dealt with, okay, rather than the aggregate statistics. You see aggregate statistics, they're worthless. You need to find out what they mean. How did they come about, okay? Inequality, justice. How about justice? I hear this word, social justice. What's social about justice? Why are we socializing? We're in the business of socializing everything. It's like everybody, no. Justice is an individual matter, not a socialized matter. Why do we socialize it? Why not? Because each person experiences justice in a different way. Somebody walks in, slaps me, maybe I turn the other cheek. Maybe he punches him back. Maybe one person walks away. Like we react differently. We require different justices. Some of us want compensation. Some of us want physical punishment, violence committed against the other person. So why are we socializing justice? Different people, right? They have different preferences of how to deal with an injustice. So let's talk about private individual justice rather than socializing justice. Okay, we don't want to socialize, we want to decentralize everything. We want to go back to individual level preferences, individual justice, individual preferences that manifest themselves via action in the marketplace. So we don't talk about how do I know what your preferences are. What do you desire, punishment or a compensation? Right? That's going to be discovered in the marketplace via action. So we'll talk more about this. Are just introductions for now. Human action is purposeful. We talked about the purposefulness of human action. Human action involves prioritizing, right? So we have goals, we prioritize. These are all characteristics of human action. The primary goal of human action is to maintain physical, psychological stability, right? This is the innate, the homeostatic equilibrium, aligning with our genetic predispositions for survival. We are genetically predisposed to survive. It's survival of the genes, right, that translate into survival of the human being. I look at human beings or the naked ape as just vessels for the genes to survive, right? And then procreation. Has anyone told why procreation is a pleasurable activity?
Because God wanted us to have a good time and to make sure we can make more.
Okay. So nature, God, right, wanted us to have a good time and procreate, right? So, but the procreation is the genes. The genes, we're just vessels. Like the genes come in us, they're like, oh, like this is a good host. We're smart, cognitive, we protect the genes, and then they make procreation a pleasurable activity. So we don't worry about, we don't like, oh, I don't want to have kids. No, like you have kids. So the genes, it's the survival of the genes that manifests in the survival of human beings. Aristotelian philosophy teaches us that life's action is to fulfill an inherent purpose, achievable through reason and purposeful, self-interested action. I can emphasize the role of self-interest. We're going to talk about it. We're going to define it. It's a direct consequence of scarcities in the study of nature and purposeful human behavior. Self-interest is not something, you cannot say I'm not self-interested. Then I will say you're not human. Okay, just self-interest is innate in us because of the scarcities of the world and the struggle of survival. Okay, but that's the most beautiful thing. That's what kept human beings, the Homo sapiens, alive. Okay, we survived for hundreds of thousands of years as human beings, at least anatomically 300,000 years, cognitively 50,000 years, or even you go before that, right? Before the hominin lineage, and survival rested on self-interest. Okay, and this self-interest, actually, we're going to find out that it leads to the betterment of the society as a whole. Okay, self-interest doesn't mean causing harm to other people. It actually, you end up benefiting other people by being self-interested. Another word I hear a lot is satiation. Oh, like you have billions of dollars, you have everything, and you're satiated. Unfortunately, it's a curse. Human beings can never be satiated. You can never in your life get to a point and say, I'm done, it's okay, I'm just going to sit down, relax. It doesn't work. You know why? Because the next day you wake up, you have to act. So when you act, you have to use your brain. I have goals, I want to achieve the goals, I want to use the easiest, fastest, cheapest way, efficient way to get to my goals. You cannot not have goals. Okay, even if you climb Mount Everest and you want to go scuba diving. Okay, Muhammad Ali, the boxer, right? He won the world champion, young age. Well, he said, there was a question asked, he said, I'm not satiated. Like you want to be successful in business, you want to do, so always you want to do something in life. You cannot be satiated. So non-satiation underlies, continuous non-satiation underlies a predisposition in our human nature. So it's intrinsic to us for not being content. Mises was pessimistic. Okay, Rothbard said it's okay, you're in a situation and you want to improve your position, you know. But me, that's Rothbard. Mises was more pessimistic, okay? Human preferences are subjective. Only you know what you like. I cannot. There is no measuring stick for me to tell you, you know, you on a Sunday going to church was a bad idea. You should have went to the beach, or you know. So there is no hierarchy, objective hierarchy of ranking people's goals. It's subjective to the individual. So economics doesn't study your choices, whether you pick self-sacrifice or self-flagellation or self-immolation. Economics doesn't tell you that's right or that's wrong. Those are the choices. That's the science of psychology, why you're picking certain goals over the other. Economics doesn't study why you pick apples or oranges. Economics studies that you pick purposely, and then you rank your goals and you find the most efficient way to get to your goals. That's the study of the science of economics. Furthermore, I would like to talk about so human action utilizes scarce resources to achieve subjective ends, right? Whether it's music, etc. Now, some of you would say it's not self-interested. Sometimes we've seen people sacrificing their lives. So what does that mean? You're sacrificing your life to save another life. Doesn't that go against your self-interest?
No, because things like warm glow and whatnot are like internal motivations for kind actions.
Bravo. Things like warm glow. You get internal psychological, physiological satisfaction by sacrificing yourself for the group. That's good. I want to add something else. As a matter of fact, self-sacrifice is even innate in us because it's genetically, we are predisposed. For example, that's my son, Nari. Raise your hand. Okay, that's Nari. Yeah, he's my son. He's 17 years old. So by the way, we have the remote students who are joining us. I think the ages range from 17 all the way to 81. Okay, so we have a wide age group. So we have, I don't know, several students joining us. So we have, so Nari is my son, right? So do I sacrifice myself? If a danger comes, do I sacrifice myself for my son? I do. Why? Without thinking, it's innate, it's intrinsic, it's instinctual, it's my genes. I'm predisposed, predetermined. I only ask God for give me a second. If the danger is coming, right? If I take a second to think about it, I will not sacrifice my life. Because I mean, his life is not worth more than my life. There's no way I'm sacrificing for my life for this guy. But it's lucky because it's instinctual. It's innate in us. Without thinking, right? Danger comes, I'm going to jump and protect my son. Okay? But if I hesitate and I have a moment to think about it, I'm not doing it. Okay? So I just sacrifice because it's instinctual. Okay? So that adds that you want warm glow. So then the self-sacrifice becomes what? Why do I sacrifice for him and not for him? Because of our gene overlap. It's the gene overlap. People sacrifice for their family. People sacrifice for their tribes. Sacrifice for their country. That's going too far because country there isn't gene overlap under the statism that we have now, right? But in the old like city states where there is like a group of people, they come from the same tribe or clan, there is self-sacrifice because of the gene overlap. And if the gene overlaps gets closer and closer, self-sacrifice for a son or a daughter becomes instinctive. Okay, so there's the gene overlap and the warm glow. So self-sacrifice could be explained by our self-interest. So self-interest doesn't mean only selfish act. Self-interest means helping other people. That helps me. Okay, so the rationality of ends is subjectively determined by the individual. Human action is rational. I think we have a few more minutes left. Human action is rational, right? Cognitively rational. Now the goals are not objectively rational. Okay, they're subjective, right? You picking on the day of an exam, you pick to go to the movies, right? That's I mean, for me, it's not rational. You should be studying, but for you, maybe rational. So the end goals are subjectively determined. There's no objective measure of rationality. But the means, we can say this mean is better over the other means. How do you want to take taxi or Uber? Which one is cheaper, right? So we can talk about rationality about the means, but not the rationality about the end goals, because they are subjective. Rational human being action analysis, which entails breaking down complex economic phenomena into components and understanding their underlying mechanism. So human action is rational. Human action is rational, volitional. What is human action is volitional? That means your will put into action. Okay, so I have a will in my head. I want to do something and putting it into action. That's what human action is. So economics doesn't study sneezing or knee-jerk reactions or night sleepwalking, right? Because there is no volition behind it. It is independent of the individual intentions. Every action is gainful. Never come to me and tell me, oh, I did something for someone else. It just doesn't exist. Every action is gainful, must be gainful. It's innate to you. You have some benefit. Okay? Even self-sacrifice, you have a benefit in it. I give you $1 million, I benefit from it. I benefit in the form of warm glow. We're going to talk about warm glow later on. Okay? No human being will take an action that's not gainful. How would you take and do something that's not gainful to you? Okay, so it doesn't work that way. So human action is gainful. Um, Biologist Richard Dawkins, in his important work, The Selfish Gene, he posits that successful genes exhibit ruthless selfishness as a predominant quality. He further posited that this genetic selfishness typically manifests as selfish behavior in individual. So the genetic selfishness is turning into individual self-interest. Sociologist William Graham Sumner proposes that human nature characterized by self-interest is universal across all individuals, societies, and social strata. Economic theory posits that no economic agent will voluntarily engage in an action perceived as unprofitable. Altruistic behavior, right? We talk about fundamentally of self-interest to satisfy your warm glow, it's a satisfaction of your warm glow. So just to sum up in this lecture, introduce characteristics of human action. We understand self-interest. We understand that human being enters society because entering into the society under the division of labor is gainful for the individual. Okay, that's what you enter. So we're going to talk about market society rather than political society. And we try to center economic analysis on a strong foundation of human nature. So human action is founded on the basis of human nature. So it is a more human-centric methodology, places human nature, its process, and its principles and its needs at the forefront of human action. Okay? And that's the end of lecture 1, an introduction to the foundations to human action. Lectures 2 and 3. Lecture 2, I want to talk about the state of nature. Human beings enter society, but it's not a vacuum. There's a state of nature that exists. There's the external environment. So human action must take into account the external environment, and human action in the third lecture must take into account its own nature, the human nature. Okay, so we will take 5 minutes break. And then we'll come back at 11:05, 5 minutes break. Okay,